guys? I'm Get Flinked. Welcome to another episode of The Pro and the Potato. Today we have a returning guest. He's been on twice before. We have Canadian of Evil Geniuses. What's up, Canadian? How you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. I've been on the grind a lot, as you have too. You've been going through some changes, a transitional period for you and your team now. I'm sure you're a busy man and trying to keep all of it straight. So why don't you catch us up to speed? What's going on with Evil Geniuses right now?
So right after the Paris major, we felt we needed to make some changes to the team. We had the same roster for almost a year now, and we obviously we're still a really good team. We were probably consistently the second best team in the world. I would say result wise that was proven, but we couldn't really, I guess, pass that final hurdle that was G2. And we felt like we were kind of missing something to be able to get past that. So the first change we made, we felt like we could have gotten more out of the coaching role. So we removed Bacon as coach from the team, and then we weren't entirely sure what we were going to do for the coaching role at the time. We were just going to basically explore more options because we felt like we could get more out of it. We had seen teams like G2 get tons out of their coaching role, and we felt like we weren't getting enough out of it. So we made that change. And then there was another change that we wanted to make, and it was to pick up Geo. Basically, he was the only player we were even looking at picking up. And it wasn't necessarily like we really wanted to replace Necrox and Mar. It was more that we really wanted to pick up Geo. We felt like he brought a lot of attacking flexibility to our team and just flexibility in general. And he's also a very vocal player, which is important because sometimes we have a lot of players other than myself. A lot of our other players don't, I guess, kind of have the small talk where they're kind of saying constantly everything that they're doing, which is fine because if too many people are talking, it becomes a problem. But you do need some of those very, very vocal players. And Gio's one of them, and he brings a lot to the table. He's very good on the attacking side, kind of micromanaging and calling working plants and stuff like that, which is, again, something we missed a bit more and something it was one of our biggest weaknesses, I'd say, as a team. So he's definitely helped out with that. And then basically we brought him in. We were able to get him. We just basically found that Amar was probably role-wise the best player to swap Geo in for. And then we told Amar about it. And we said, if you want, we would love to have you coach. Do that. So we were moving forward with that roster with Amar as coach, and it was great. The roster fit together really well. And Amar did a ton of work as coach. Right away, we noticed so much improvement and all this preparation he was doing. It was really, really good, very helpful. And then I think it was after the second or third play day. I think it was after the second play day of the second half of the season. Basically, the next day or the day after, Brandon came into TeamSpeak. We were supposed to scrim. And Brandon just came in and basically told us, I'm leaving the team. Literally came out of nowhere. He had another opportunity that he could pursue, so he took that. And we're all right, well, I guess we're playing with Amar. And that's not something we were upset about or anything. Amar is still one of the best, without a doubt. It was more, like I said earlier, just trying to have the right composition of roles on the team. But we're making it work so far with the new lineup. There's a few things that we kind of have to get used to that we're missing without Brandon on the team, because he did bring a lot of communication and just I guess stability in terms of his calling and just how he played in general. He's very consistent, stable, and reliable in that sense. So things are a bit different, but I think we're getting the hang of it.
So at this point, the coaching situation is kind of in limbo. Any plans there as far as what's going to be your decisions moving forward?
So for current coaching, we're not decided on anything. we basically don't want to force anything. We want to make sure that we get the right fit. We want to make sure that whoever we're getting as coach is putting in the necessary work. Like, we're getting a lot out of it. We don't want to just sign a coach and then kind of be stuck with someone that we feel like isn't doing. We wouldn't be stuck with them, but like just waste kind of time signing someone that we don't feel is doing the necessary work. So just kind of waiting it out, making sure we get the right fit. It's not necessarily easy to get a good fit as a coach currently, because I think you almost have to be a former pro player to understand the game at the right level. Obviously, there's other stuff you can do where just if you're a hardworking person, like you put in the effort, watch VODs and kind of collect data. But I definitely think you need to have that game knowledge of like a pro level.
So, to summarize your roster moves there, is it true in saying that the thing that kind of got everything rolling was that you wanted to bring on Geo, or did bringing on Geo have anything to do with your coaching changes, or were those two things isolated?
They're completely separate. Regardless of whether or not we were going to get Geo, we were removing Bacon as coach.
Okay.
Our only option though, like our only option at the time that we knew of to replace Bacon as coach was if Amar was to step in. But regardless, like if we couldn't get Geo, we were still replacing Bacon as coach.
Okay. So you mentioned with Geo, bringing on Geo, it gives you guys a lot more flexibility on attacks. Was he brought on to IGL on the attacking side, or overall at all, or is there any part of the IGL responsibilities that he was specifically picked for?
Not like specifically IGLing. It's just he kind of adds a bit to like the mid round calling. So like when it comes to working bomb plants, and then when it comes to like we're in an extreme deficit in the round, he can kind of take over with calls. But otherwise now it's pretty much all me. Before it was like a mix of me and Brandon, and then like I said, Geo on some rounds, like if we were in extreme deficit, he would kind of call, or working plants, because he's usually with the ops he's played, he's usually involved in the site execute, so usually kind of calls that.
One thing I've noticed, I've been fortunate enough, I was at the Invitational, I was at the Atlantic City Finals, and then I was in Paris. And from being at those three events, something the viewers might not see from home that I kind of picked up on is, to me, it seems like Young has gotten more vocal. Just watching him in between rounds, I see him talking a lot more in the last few events. Is that true, or was I just missing out on that earlier in maybe his career?
I think you're probably missing out on it. I'd say Young's pretty vocal. He's always voiced his opinions on things. He's not always the best at like putting it into like very descriptive words. It's very black and white with Young. Like, this is bad, this is good, right?
Yeah.
But he does, like, if he doesn't think something will work, he says it, which is important. And if he thinks something will work, he'll say it. And it helps me out. As frustrating as it is sometimes, because I want to know more. Like, I want to know why something isn't working. It's still helpful. And yeah, Young's always kind of been vocal in that sense. Just saying what he thinks we should do and stuff like that.
Right after Paris, you guys made the change with Geo and then the coaching swap. But then you had DreamHack. What was that? DreamHack Montreal?
Yeah.
That was. I felt like that was kind of bad timing for you guys. You guys went there with a really. I don't even know if Geo had a jersey yet.
He did.
And yeah, I kind of felt like that was really bad timing for you guys. But you guys went and did your best. It wasn't a great showing for you guys, but. Did you feel like that was kind of, would you have rather have been at home working and practicing than there, or was that a good learning experience for you, even though it wasn't the results you're used to?
So we were taking the event as practice. The reason we didn't want to stay home instead, one, we were already signed up, but also with the chance, and we thought either way, like if we're playing well, we thought we could win the event. There wasn't like, we did believe that, but we weren't outright expecting to win it. So we were taking the event as practice, but if we won the event, right, like we would get an invitational spot, so it was worth a shot, I guess. But yeah, we had I think two or 3 days of practice going into the event, and like our style had completely changed when we picked up Geo. So we were just kind of getting used to all of that. We weren't too upset about it, just trying to figure things out, learn what we're comfortable with.
I believe one of the losses at DreamHack Montreal was to Rogue. Correct me if I'm wrong there. And then you come back into Pro League with a little bit more time with the roster, and then you beat Rogue pretty significantly in I think your first match back in Pro League after the Paris Major, after DreamHack Montreal. Now this is while BC is still on the roster, but I think it showed that, a little bit more practice, you guys improved significantly just in that time. And then you lose BC, and your next match is against Noble, and you 6-0 them. And speaking of a different style, you guys playing against Noble, even more so than your most recent matchup against Mouse, did definitely look different to me, especially watching maybe NVK is what kind of jumped out to me. Just he seemed a lot more aggressive in my opinion. Is there some truth to that, you think? Or
I think he got a lot more comfortable, like playing how he should. I suppose, like being able to take some risks and use his aim to his advantage and stuff like that. I think previously he was a bit scared too, because there was a lot of I guess reprimanding or peeking and stuff like that and making mistakes, and I think Nate was a bit more uncomfortable and kind of felt like locked in. So
I got you.
Yeah, I think he's been freed up a bit. Obviously, we don't want him doing anything silly, but giving him a bit more freedom.
So stop just short of the rank star mentality, but play a little bit more aggressive, right?
Yeah.
All right. So your last match in Pro League was against Mouse Esports. I believe I'm saying that right. It's either Mouse Sports or Mouse Esports. But you ended up actually losing that matchup after you had looked great in your previous two matches. What happened against Mouse?
I think it was like kind of had like a bad week. Like we had been doing great in practice, and we thought we had gotten really comfortable with everything, and then all of a sudden, like one day, things just kind of flipped, and we like had this really bad stretch of practice leading up to the match. So we're kind of concerned. But yeah, it was kind of an off day, I guess. And there was also, I guess, some conflicting like call things between myself and Geo, which is problems all sorted out now. We've kind of like set on like just giving one person the voice for the main calls, which is me. So that way we won't have the same issues. Like we called the wrong site on defenses because we were kind of split between what we wanted to do, and that was obviously a problem. Not playing site that we probably should have been playing multiple rounds. And then our tacks, our positions, and operators are a bit off again because of conflicting calls. So I think just a bad week, and because of that bad week, we kind of had things conflicting all over the place. I think we kind of have it sorted now. We've played a couple scrims already, changing things up a bit, and it's felt a lot smoother, a lot better. So
I think maybe some credit to Mouse as well. They brought on England as their IGL, and they've looked a lot better since doing that. They looked really good against you guys. Did you see a difference between playing them and earlier in the season?
I definitely think their attacks looked a lot better, and I think that has to do with England played a hard breach role. He's working plants and stuff like that, and you could tell before they didn't really have like the same kind of site executes that they had before. Now they kind of did map control, like let Vert and Hyper take the map control and then kind of leave them lurking around, and then they had England kind of working a site execute, which was I definitely noticed the difference.
Moving on, still talking about some roster stuff here, but I want to ask you some tougher questions, kind of like overall thought process on where you guys are at now, because I think that there's a lot of people who looked at you making roster changes after Paris and thinking, okay, I get where you're coming from, but at the same time, you guys have clearly been the second best team in the world. Is this a possible overreaction? So let me ask you this. Was your team better at the Invitationals last year or at Paris this year?
I think it's hard to say. I think we probably were better at Paris, but then the grand finals day, it sucked to happen, but we had a bad day on the grand final. I don't necessarily think if we had our normal kind of day, I don't necessarily think we would have outright beat G2, but it definitely would have. But we had a bad day, and not good timing to have a bad day, I guess. And obviously that is a testament to kind of us as a team, I guess, is at the end of the day, the best team doesn't have bad days that frequent, right? So, no excuses, but I do think we were better in Paris. I think we were kind of more well-rounded as a team. It was just we didn't I don't know, we didn't show up on the grand finals day, and I think that then big part is because I personally didn't show up, like as a captain as well as individual in game. But yeah, I definitely think we were a bit better in Paris.
Speaking of, you personally, we had Pingu and Fabian on after Paris, and Pingu, when talking about the finals there and how one-sided it was, he said that he saw you earlier in that day in the lobby and was talking to you, and he said you didn't seem like yourself. Do you see where he's coming from there? Was there something going on, or do you understand why he would say something like that?
Yeah, I think he noticed I didn't really have the kind of same energy, I guess, that morning, which I I don't know if it's something to concern himself with, but because usually like when I first am getting on the shuttle or whatever to go to our match, I'm usually kind of I just listen to music and kind of keep to myself. I'm actually kind of quiet, chilled, but I usually would have a lot more energy in the game and leading up to it, and I definitely didn't that day. I don't know why, but like I said, an off day, I guess. But yeah, I know where Pengu's coming from, and yeah, I mean, definitely showed.
Well, that was a long trip for you guys. I mean, you guys at that point have been gone for what, 2.5, 3 weeks? When you count
Yeah.
boot camp in Copenhagen and everything. I mean, that's a long trip. Like, I mean, do you think that played into it at all?
I don't think so because I don't think this I don't think the switch kind of would really flip just like that.
Right.
Obviously, I'm going to be exhausted by the end of the trip, but I'd say just the day before against Rogue, I probably had, as far as calling and like individual play wise, I felt like I played like the best match I had ever played. I had really good calls and adaptations for our team, and I played really well individually. But then the next day, it was like the complete opposite, where it was like I was completely absent. So yeah, I don't know if like the switch kind of flips that drastically in terms of like me just being worn out. Um, I guess I was just kind of out of it. I don't really know what happened, but yeah.
Well, let me ask you this question regarding the Invitationals versus Paris. G2 made a roster change since the Invitationals, having Cantor Raketti. This is old news now. They've been playing with him for a while now, but in the Invitationals, they had Shate. Do you feel like G2 is a better team now than they were at the Invitationals?
It's really hard to say because they're both insanely skilled players. They're like a bit different though. Like I'd say Shate's a bit more. I don't want to say a more passive player because he's not. He plays really aggressively, but he plays like more of that anchor role, and he does stay alive late into the round. Kanto does for the most part, but he's definitely like a lot more in your face throughout the whole round. So I think it's a bit different. I do think it works out a bit better for G2 because they kind of have Eunice Kanto doing that, and I think it works out a bit better. And that way, Fabian doesn't have to play as much of an aggressive role because he was kind of playing, I guess, like on defense, he was playing like a more lurk heavy role before. Now he's like sitting on site with Meister, sitting on cams the whole round. So I think it kind of improved the roles on their team a bit. As far as skill goes, though, I think like Kanto and Shate both right around the same kind of skill level, so it's kind of hard to argue there. But But the reason Shate did stop playing is because he lacked motivation, and at the end of the day, I know Toad has the motivation. So I mean that obviously kind of one ups Shate at the end of the day, right? If you have the motivation, really want to win and play every single day, then like that's something you need to have at the highest level.
Interesting perspective there. I appreciate your input there, and I agree with your first statement regarding your team being better in Paris. I mean, if you think about it, I think in Paris you only, other than the final, you only had one match that went 3 maps. If I'm correct in saying that, and that's not the typical EG style. Even if you go back to the Invitational, it was 3 maps, nail biters the whole way, even from group stage on. So to see you guys go through the group stages and everything so much more clean, to me, it felt like you guys were better in Paris, and I agree with your assessment there. And I'm interested. I'm glad to hear your perspective on that. So, next tough question: your team now, the roster, the Evil Geniuses roster, is your team now better than it was in Paris?
I think we have a higher ceiling. I don't think we're there yet, though. I think bringing in Geo, like we had a higher ceiling on the team, and I think even bringing in Amar in place of Brandon, even then raises our skill ceiling. It does. We do lose out in terms of like structure and strategy and stuff like that. Obviously, losing Brandon, but our skill ceiling's insanely high. It's just a matter of kind of figuring things out, getting the footwork down, and making sure like we can play at the level we need to. So I don't think we're there yet. I think we're close, and I do think we can kind of pass that level. And that's kind of why we went for the change, right? We don't want to just barely figure out how to improve enough to finally beat G2. Like we want to be the best team in the world. We want to do what they're doing. We want to kind of create a dynasty where we're winning everything. That's the mindset we have. So like we try to improve our roster to get to a level where we're comfortable and believe that we can do that. Obviously, we were confident in the roster before, but we weren't improving enough to where it would be drastic enough to just outright surpass them.
Okay, that makes sense. One thing I wanted to kind of get your opinion on a little bit of a lighter note here. We recently heard that Cloud9 actually has a team house, which I believe is the first team house for NA Pro League. I think some of the Obey guys live together, but I don't know that it's quite the same. Could be wrong there, but what would the EG house look like? Like, is that even something that you would be interested in? Could you handle living with your teammates? Is that something you would want to do, or does that idea kind of seem insane to you?
So I'd rather have the whole apartment set up where it's like the apartments and then you go to like an office or whatever to practice, which I know like teams in other games have and stuff like that. I'd much rather have that because like we stayed in a house together, the Xfinity training facility. We've stayed there a couple times to boot camp, and like it's good for a bit, but you could definitely like you need your own space. Like our team all gets along really well. Like there's no like conflict or anything at that house, something like that. But like you definitely just kind of you want your space sometimes. It's just how it is. So I definitely think it'd be helpful though to have like a team house and stuff like that. But I definitely would rather have the apartment set up.
Yeah.
As far as how it would look for our team though, I think it'd be a lot of fun. I think probably be some cool content and whatnot as well with us. We're
absolutely
goofy group of guys. So
yeah, that'd be cool to see. All right, I wanted to get into a little bit something different for the series. Usually we go over a clip or two and talk about that, but I thought instead of doing that in this episode, I wanted to talk about map balance. And I think that there is a lot of people who would be interested in hearing your thoughts, because we hear that term a lot, map balance. But what makes, first of all, a map balance? What do you think is the characteristics of a balanced map?
I'd say the most important things are, one, for defense, how many sites you can play. So like how many sites you can viably choose, and not just like, oh, our previous sites are locked, you can play this third site. Like from the get-go, like how many sites are you comfortably willing to choose from and be confident you can win the round? Because like some maps, you'll play your first site, and then after that, it's just like we have to go to the site. So a number of viable and comfortable sites, I would say, for defense. And then for attack, I guess how many different ways you attack a site. Personally, I'm a big fan of Oregon because I feel like you can attack in so many different ways, and I do feel like all the sites are pretty viable. Obviously, kids and laundry are far and ahead of kitchen and tower, but I do believe all the sites are viable. I've seen plenty of good kitchen setups that work consistently, and I've seen plenty of good tower holds. And honestly, I think like for our team, our tower hold win rate is probably our highest site win rate. Obviously, I think part of that has to do with the fact that teams aren't very comfortable attacking it, and it's also like kind of a scrappy site. Kind of have the mindset. We had this previously on the old clubhouse where like when you would have to defend bar is obviously a notoriously bad site to defend. It was very difficult as a defender, but when you kind of by default are already going to lose the round, you just play like you already lost, and then that way you might get an advantage off of picks or some map control, stuff like that, and then now you can play with your numbers advantage or resource advantage and actually try to win the round. So stuff like that. But yeah, as far as attacks, I think Oregon like is a good example of it, where like laundry and kids, like there's at least like three very default ways to attack the kids site, right? There's like a lower dining side take where you come up white stairs and go through the window. There's a kids take where you take the big tower and you take onto the kids' windows, and then there's also the master take. And, like those are like the most basic. Like any team does them. Obviously, there's more like intricate ones that teams will do, but like those three basic ones just on one site, and then laundry. Obviously, there's you kind of go for full map control from the west side and take all the way through, take meeting and tower, and then execute onto laundry, or you can do like very minimalistic and like only take lobby, don't take meeting, just leave them alone there and hold them, and then execute on laundry. And then there's like taking construction sites. So a lot of different options, kind of, and that's like I guess an example of why I think Oregon's a really good map, just because of how much is viable on it. I think a lot of people actually disagree with me on that though, so don't necessarily take my word for that.
No, I think Oregon's a great example because another thing that jumps out to me about Oregon is, in my opinion, it's probably the smallest map that has that much balance to it. If you think about like a lot of the newer maps, like you take Villa for example, how big that is compared to Oregon. At least I don't know. Maybe it's just a perception thing. I feel like Villa is like twice the size of Oregon,
Definitely.
And so for Oregon to be able to not be a giant map like that, but still have some balance to it is pretty cool, I think, and it makes it exciting to watch as well. I think watching a match on Oregon compared to a Villa. But speaking of Villa, do you think Villa is balanced?
I definitely think so. We're obviously a team we're kind of known to not play Villa very often. I think that it's no secret at this point. So like I can literally say it. I've heard countless people just be like, EG always bans Villa. So yeah, we're kind of a team that's known not to play it much. So I don't have the best insight on it, but from watching and like I have obviously looked into a bit. And, like we do have some ideas on it, but I do think it's balanced. Obviously, there's two sites that are significantly preferred on it. I think that's the case with most maps, though. But yeah, there's like seems like a few different ways to attack. Like multiple sites, different ways to defend as well. I think a big thing with that is the availability of vertical gameplay on the map. That kind of gives you different options to defend. You're not just like fully invested on your site anchoring, like you also can kind of have the roams to end up late flanking or C4ing from below, stuff like
I'm Villa's turned into one of my favorite maps. I love on Villa that I feel like You can anchor and play well. You can roam and have a lot of options as a roam because there's really 3 staircases that you can rotate on. As an attacker, you can go vertical. You can do like a long clear from the opposite side of the map and push in. It's just I like Villa. It's turned into one of my favorite maps. But we recently saw 3 maps removed from the Pro League rotation. That was Cafe, Chalet, and Skyscraper. So tell me, what was wrong with Cafe? Why did that one need removed?
So like I've said before, one of the big things you need is a lot of viable sites. And Cafe had 2, which is not good. And overall, like, especially now, right, you sometimes need to play a 3rd site. So if you were to play Cafe, you win your first 2 sites, you literally have to go Bakery. You don't even have a choice between like Bakery and another site. So that was one problem. And then also you need variance on attack. And at the end of the day, almost every attack on Cafe starts from the red roof hatch, right? You take your map control from there. There's like literally like maybe some teams will do like a cocktail windows take. And that you don't need to go through the red roof hatch. But for the most part, like even like attacking train, you have to take your map control through there. So it's very stale in that sense and very repetitive. And like even the train defense, like it kind of plays out even similarly to the bar cocktail defense because the top floor control is so important on that map. It's like you end up attacking it the same way to take top floor control and then you execute onto the lower side. So just kind of stale, very repetitive. And also like with the Glaz kind of meta, Glaz line meta, wasn't the most fun. So yeah, that's my take on why Cafe wasn't a very good map.
See, I mean, even in ranked Cafe, which is still in the ranked rotation, I call it the Cafe 3-1 curse. You go up 3-1 on Cafe, and then you go on defense, you're up 3-1, you have to go to Bakery. They end up winning that because Bakery's so hard to defend, and then they go back on attack, win that round, and it's like easy overtime. It looked like it was going to be a sure victory. It goes to overtime, and then basically whoever gets defense on Cafe usually wins the overtime because the top floor, in my opinion, and I'm talking ranked here. I know it might be different in Pro League, but the top floor on Cafe is a pretty easy defend, and the mining wheel room, the train wheel room, that's an easy defend in my opinion. Those are very defender-sided sites in my opinion in ranked. So it's such a weird map, and it could be really frustrating for that purpose.
I've actually noticed. I've had that exact observation. I've never commented on it, but every time I play Cafe in ranked, I actually notice it. It's like, yeah, you go up like 3-0, 3-1, and then you're stuck on Bakery. Well, we lost.
Yep. Yeah, and it's pretty frustrating. All right, so Chalet was another one that got removed. What was wrong with Chalet?
So it's just the movement on the map is very restricted. I think one of the main problems with that is like I don't know if everyone will know this color, but the K9 windows is what everyone, at least in NA competitive, calls the windows on top of main lobby, basically.
Yeah.
It just cuts off so much movement. Basically, once you clear the top floor, there's no way to really rotate back up as defender. So it's just very easy to take map control, I guess. Like there's 3 staircases on the map, but it's just that they're so easily holdable. So like if you're attacking Kitchen Trophy and you clear Master and Office, if you just have a guy sitting up on those windows, literally nobody from anywhere else on the map can retake upper because that guy can see the main stairs, the main lobby. If you're coming from library to flank Master and Office, like there's literally nowhere to go. So it's just very easy to cut off movement, and once you have the vertical play up there, like it's very easy to kind of get everyone out of the site. And then again, it's very easy to take map control on the snowmobile garage take, and the whole ceiling above wine cellar is destructible. And then you open the snowmobile garage, and now there's literally nowhere to play. So it's a very, very attacker-sided map, and it's very frustrating to play as defenders because you feel like you're stuck the whole time. You never feel safe. And like the only positions where you are safe, you can't do anything. So just a very frustrating map to play as defenders. I think just the clear is too easy on it. I think it's almost back to like how the old clubhouse was, where on the old clubhouse, like it was so easy to clear the map, you couldn't roam up. The only thing is that the old clubhouse like is still, it was good enough in the basement to where you could anchor and win the round anyways, but still, like at the end of the day, you couldn't play anywhere else. You had to just play downstairs. There was just at least there was better safe positions when playing downstairs on clubhouse. And then the other sites just, again, not that viable. There was at least variation in how you would attack sometimes on Chalet, I guess, but yeah, just it was more for how frustrating it was to play as defender.
All right, so the third one I want to talk about here, and this is my this is the one that I want out of rank the most. Okay, Skyscraper. What's wrong with Skyscraper?
So, in my opinion, there's some pro teams love Skyscraper. They're watching this. Most notably, Team C love Skyscraper. I make fun of them for it at events. Like, we actually would joke, like, if you ever mentioned, like, we have the pro Discord, if you ever mentioned like Skyscraper in it, like they would come running. Their battle cry, like you say Skyscraper 5 times and Team Secret shows up.
Anyway. Leon's running out of a window by the time he gets there.
They love it. So my problem with it is attacking it. It feels like you're. I don't like attacking from the outside in. I don't like any maps where it's just like outside in, and like even defending against it, it's not fun to play against like defenders where like you can literally, you're outside, you vault in a window, and then you can plant. Yeah. And it's like that on all the sites. Yeah. Right? It's immediately accessible from the outside. So just that outside in kind of gameplay isn't very fun. You want attackers to have to take some sort of map control, and it's not fun for either side. So you don't want to just have to vault in a window as an attacker, but then as defenders, you don't want to just have to sit there and wait for someone to vault in the horde. So that's kind of my take on it. It's just that the outside in kind of attacking style.
I think a couple of things with me on Skyscraper. First of all, I agree with you that I always, as an attacker, just feel like I'm getting ready to get ran out on. And, you think about, okay, so let's say they're defending Tea Room and you decide to try to clear from office over. You're literally in a tunnel. From the whole way, that drum area is such a choke point where they can just cut you off so easy that I don't feel like that's very viable. And then if you're playing on the balcony, you're just getting ready to get ran out on. I think Skyscraper is an example of how much utility attackers have now. It's such a display of that, because if you give attackers windows, like you said, that you can just jump in and plan on, they have so much utility now with Maverick, Ying, Lion, Dokkaebi, Glaz. All those attackers can just make a defender's life miserable in that scenario. You have to, and they know this. You can see with the newer maps, they've built in buffer rooms to the sites to prevent that from happening, that exact thing from happening. So I think Skyscraper is just a kind of a victim of, attackers getting so much utility now compared to what they used to have.
Yeah, I think it was an earlier DLC map, not the earliest, but an earlier one, and I think it's kind of like a learning process thing where I think they've definitely learned that they can't have the sites so close to the perimeter. So yeah, just a kind of a learning experience, I guess.
So what's wrong with Theme Park? I think Theme Park should be in Pro League. I know I'm gonna get some hate for that, but where am I going wrong there?
I don't think horrible. I think it's on the upper-ish end of DLC maps. I do think it's better than like Skyscraper, Chalet. I actually liked Cafe because Cafe actually felt competitively viable. It was definitely boring to watch because it would be like the same kind of thing over and over again. But I did like Cafe. I'm not going to say better than Cafe. But I do think it's more competitively viable than Chalet and Skyscraper. I think the main thing is just like it feels like a big chunk of the map is almost like wasted because like the in my opinion at least, the best two sites are the drug lab and daycare, which are on one side of the map, and then it's like that whole other side of the map, the like the haunted house side. I call it the booty side. It's a joke, but anyways, that side of the map feels almost kind of wasted. So that's kind of my very limited take on it. I also don't really like train room because I feel like it's so easy to take control of. It's just I don't know, and it's like once you take control of it, then it's I don't know. It's a lot of map control for attackers.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from there, and I do see what you're saying with the haunted side there, especially I think in ranked initiation, which is the upstairs of haunted side, is a very viable site. You're seeing it played more and more, but the downstairs actually gargoyle site is still not very viable. But that's still in ranked. That's 3 viable sites, in my opinion, and a lot of chance for rotations and stuff like that. But I agree, the downstairs area of that gargoyle is kind of mazy and dark and just kind of weird over there. But I'd like to see it get a chance one of these days. So thanks for talking about the maps there. I think that's awesome. And I actually made a video recently talking about the changes that I would like to see come to ranked. And one of them was that I want to see them remove Cafe, Chalet, and Skyscraper from the ranked map list. But I said keep Theme Park, keep Hereford in there as 2 maps that aren't in the ranked playlist, but would still that aren't in the Pro League playlist, but would still be in the ranked playlist. Now, when you stream a lot, you're playing Terrorist Hunt. That's kind of almost like a meme in the community, like, oh, Canadians doing another Terrorist Hunt stream, So,
Yeah.
Is there something they could do to rank that would make you more interested in playing it?
Honestly, I don't think so for me personally. It's just for me, like I have to be playing with like almost like a stack of like pro players who are almost either completely joking around. Like if I play with my teammates and we're like completely joking around, I can play for a bit. Or if we're taking it pretty seriously, which happens like at the very beginning of the season. But then after that, it's basically once it devolves into ranked play, where like people are just kind of doing their own thing. Once it devolves into that, I can't play for very long because I just get frustrated because I'm so used to playing the very structured style of the game. When I'm playing against all this other stuff, and like when I'm most notably when I'm playing with it, like when I have like something that I expect to be watched isn't being watched, and like someone not droning someone in, part of the map control not being taken, stuff like that. When all this stuff I expect and used to happening isn't happening, it gets frustrating for me, and I basically just can't afford to play and get frustrated that often, just because if I play before I play scrims and I get frustrated ranked, then I'm in a bad mood for scrims. So.
No, I get you. Is it fair to say like so there's a lot of players out there. I don't necessarily put myself in this category, but there's a lot of people out there who they play ranked and they love the rush that they get from ranked in that competitive environment. So it's to the point for them now that they can't play casual because it doesn't do the same thing for them. Casual just is not fun for them. They might do it like as a warm-up game, but they can't hop on and play casual for even 3 or 4 matches without being bored. And I think maybe is it the case with a lot of the Pro League players that when you've played at the high level of Paris finals, invitationals, all that stuff, and then you try to go and hop into a ranked, it's not doing it for you.
No, it's just not the same. Like I said, like when I play, I get frustrated, and like I even get frustrated with my team, right? Like if we don't do what we're supposed to do, like in a round, like basic stuff that's like expected from our pro players. But then like obviously I shouldn't have this expectation of everyone in rank, but it's just how I am. I get frustrated playing and like the game not being played like how I expected. I get frustrated because like I said, we don't have the certain map control. Something's not being watched or whatever, and I'll end up dying because of it, or maybe I won't die, but like we'll lose the round because of it. Someone else will die. That kind of stuff just frustrates me.
I think that's an interesting perspective there, and I think that we are due for some changes to ranked. But I get where you guys are coming from because I think a lot of, like I said, the pro players are on have the same feeling about it as you, and it's understandable. I wanted to get your thoughts here, towards the end here about Clash and Maverick, two new operators that came this season. How have they changed things so far, or have they had an impact? What are your thoughts on Clash and Maverick so far this season?
Um, they're both viable, both strong operators, but both are very annoying. Um, I guess I don't know. They're both useful. They're both kind of situational, I'd say. Um, I think as time progresses, more and more teams will figure out Clash, and actually, she'll be better and better, like on more sites. But right now, like there's only like certain ideas teams have with Clash, and like they only understand how to play her on certain sites. So she's seeing a decent amount of play, but not like as much as I think she'll end up seeing more basically.
Okay.
I think she's really strong, but I think you need to know how you want to play her. And like obviously you need to have your team kind of functioning around her, right? Like you need a guy playing behind her, supporting her. You probably need like ADSs nearby in the area she's playing, because you can soak up VMIs or flashbangs. Like you need these kind of things planned out. I don't think it's just you run a clash and just go. Um, Obviously you can do that and get some use out of it, but I do think you can get a lot more out of it. As far as Mav's very, very map and site specific. There's some that he's crazy good on, and it is annoying, very annoying. Just like instantly having control of a wall, regardless of bandit or mute, right? There's nothing you can do about it as defender sometimes, and now like you can't play in a room because there's Mav holes. Um, and it's even more annoying when you don't hear them and then you just instantly die. Um, so like an example of that is like Clubhouse, very good on both the upper sites, especially.
Yeah.
Bedroom on the hot tub wall, insanely strong. And then Cache server on the server wall, very very good. So yeah, Mav's very very map and site dependent. He's for the most part like you can kind of run him anywhere, but you'll get more use out of him on specific sites. But when he is good, he's very good, and there's nothing you can really do about him. So
Yeah, Maverick's really changed up operator selection for me in my rank squad because you think about it like, do I need to bring a Thatcher now? You talk about Clubhouse, so you're attacking Clubhouse. It was a given. I need a Thatcher. I need a Thermite. Do you need a Thatcher anymore? Attacking that site. I mean, Thatcher still has a lot of uses outside of just getting rid of those bandit charges. Did you need one before though? I mean, you could shoot through the window. Like it's I don't know. It's really Maverick's really thrown a lot of the team composition out the window, and it makes you rethink a lot of stuff. For me personally.
yeah, I mean, I guess that's the case with a lot of new ops, right?
Yeah.
If whenever one brings something that's good enough to like warrant a pick to the table, at the end of the day, you do have to drop something else, which always confusing trying to like weigh out like notably like when Lion came out, right? Because you can't really equate Lion to another operator, right? Like so Mav, you can be like, well, if I bring Mav, like he can replace Thatcher's drop, or like if I bring Zofia, it replaces Ash's drop. But bringing Lion, it doesn't replace anyone's job. It's just insanely good, right?
Right.
But you do have to drop something to bring Lion. So it was kind of confusing, and like, it was almost weird. Like I think some teams actually got hurt by playing a Lion because they dropped the wrong utility. Obviously, like you can still make it work. Lion's ridiculous, but teams would kind of shoot themselves in the foot because they would drop like some necessary utility to make room for this Lion.
I know that you said that you don't play a ton of ranked, but do you think operator bans should come into ranked?
I think it could be interesting and like fun. Just because there's some ops that are really annoying to play against in rank.
Yeah.
But I do think like some people wouldn't. I don't know. Some people wouldn't like the time that it takes, or like stuff like that. I mean, I guess you could do just bans and not do sixth pick.
Yes.
And I think that would probably be okay. And you can even like reduce the ban timers if you want, and that would actually probably be okay.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. You could do that. And then I don't think the six pick. I can understand the six pick in Pro League, and I will understand the six pick when there's like 100 operators. But for right now in ranked, six pick and reveal phase, I don't think would be needed.
Definitely.
But
There's no mind games like that kind of played in ranked, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, that level of like communication and preparation isn't there, so I don't think it's necessary, and it does take quite a bit of time. So yeah, just adding bans I think would actually be good because that doesn't take too long.
I think it's coming. I think it's just a matter of when. But I'm hoping it's sooner rather than later. I would really like to see it to come into ranked. Okay, well, I think that's really about it. Interesting insight there. I really love what you had to say about the maps and stuff. I think there's a lot of people out there who hear the term map balance, but don't necessarily know exactly what is considered a balanced map. What is it about the map that makes it balanced? And I'm really excited that we got to talk about that some. Is there anything else that you want to talk about here before we wrap things up?
No, nothing specific. Thanks for having me as usual.
Of course, and we got to shout out your social media here. If you want to watch one of Canadian's terrorist hunt streams, then make sure you check out his Twitch. No, seriously, even though he is playing terrorist hunt, it's super entertaining. He's, you guys can tell from the interview, he's really upfront. So when there's roster changes, when there's anything going on with the team, usually there's a command in his stream that explains it, and he's more than happy to get in there and talk to you about what's going on with the team. So highly recommend you guys check out Canadian's Twitch and also his Twitter, which will have both of those down in the description. You guys can click on and drop him a follow over there. That's really about it. Thanks for coming on, man. As always, I enjoy it. Good luck to you and the new EG roster for the rest of the season. Hopefully, we'll be seeing you guys in Brazil. And correct me if I'm wrong, but if you guys get first place this season, is that an automatic qualifier for invitationals?
It's first or second. So if we qualify for Brazil, we qualify for invitational.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Well, you guys are in good shape right now. You're looking good. Keep the momentum going. I know that you dropped your last map, but the previous two was really good. So I think you guys are in good shape too. So keep it going. You got a ton of fans out here who'll be rooting for you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, for us at the Pro and Potato, I'm with Canadian. Really appreciate your guys' time. We're going to call it quits there, and we'll see you guys on the next one.